Hey viewers, welcome back to our channel. If you don't like suspense but still crave a thrill, then dive into our latest film. This psychological thriller peels back the layers of greed and betrayal within a family. Get ready for a mind-bending ride where loyalty is a lie and trust is a deadly game. Stay tuned. The movie opens with a boy named Silas who receives a package from a delivery boy. He rushes home through the dense forest, the atmosphere tense and foreboding. Once home, Silas eagerly opens the package, revealing a toy gun he bought online. As he loads the gun and starts testing it, his uncle, Rupesh, enters. With a stern expression, Rupesh takes the gun away and orders Silas to focus on his studies. Rupesh then heads to his father's house, where the air is thick with unspoken tension. He asks his father, Ramesh, for 2,000 rupees to buy diesel. Ramesh, an aging man worn by life, instructs Rupesh to take the money from a hidden stash where there's 7,500 rupees. The brief exchange is loaded with the weight of dependence, unspoken pride, and the looming shadows of what's to come. Rupesh, a college dropout with no steady work, lives in the shadow of his father, Ramesh. With his ambitions dwindled, he has no choice but to rely on his father's support. After getting money from Ramesh, Rupesh heads outside and hands 2,000 rupees to Girish, the houseworker. 1,500 for diesel and grab 2 cigarettes, Rupesh instructs, adding, "Keep the change." Rupesh then strolls into the kitchen, where he meets Swasti, his brother Nitesh's wife. He eats in silence, his presence a reminder of the tension in the house. Finished, Rupesh steps outside to smoke, trying to find a moment of peace. Later, Nitesh quietly approaches Swasti, whispering, "If father asks, tell him I'm at work." Meanwhile, Rupesh, oblivious to the brewing storm, is dozing off, lost in a rare moment of comfort. His rest is violently interrupted when Ramesh storms in, fury in his eyes. He grabs Rupesh by the neck, demanding, "Did you take the money?" Startled, Rupesh jumps up, denying it. But Ramesh, familiar with his son's ways, isn't fooled. "I'm tired of you and your laziness. Enough is enough. Give me my money," he orders, his voice cold and final. Rupesh's anger bubbles up as soon as his father leaves, but he swallows it down. In this house, Ramesh is the boss, and Rupesh knows all too well that challenging him would only make things worse. In the next scene, a group of workers struggles to remove a stubborn pipe from an old well. Despite their best efforts, it remains stuck. Ramesh, despite his age, steps in with determination, but as he pulls, he suddenly suffers a stroke and collapses. Rayog, his son, swiftly takes him to the hospital, anxiety etched on his face. Meanwhile, Rupesh stormed into Silas's room, demanding to know where he got the air gun. Silas hesitated, then confessed. He had stolen money from Ramesh's account to buy it. Furious, Rupesh rushed out to find his father and expose Silas. But as he approached, he saw Rayog escorting Ramesh to the hospital. A dark thought crept into Rupesh's mind. If Ramesh were to die, his inheritance would be within reach. Instead of fear, a twisted hope filled him, and he couldn't help but feel a cold satisfaction at the possibility. With Ramesh admitted and his condition uncertain, the family's discussions shift to the property. As Ramesh was the one who managed everything, now that his control is slipping, everyone's hopes rise that they might finally get a share of the estate. At the hospital, Rayog and Nitesh sit tensely in the waiting room, the strain of the pandemic visible on their masked faces. The air is thick with worry as they are joined by Dr. Rajev, a close relative and a doctor. He pulls them aside and, with a grave expression, reveals that while the attending doctors are optimistic about Ramesh's recovery, he isn't so sure. Nitesh, ever pragmatic, brings up the pressing matter of their business, asking if they can have Ramesh sign some checks. But Rajev, shaking his head, informs them that Ramesh is completely paralyzed. Signing anything is out of the question. Desperate, Rayog suggests taking his fingerprint instead, but Dr. Rajev's stern warning cuts through the room. That could land you both in jail. Later that evening, Rupesh, feeling a newfound sense of authority, confides in Swasti about his long-standing desire to tie his horse outside the house, a request his father, Ramesh, had always denied. Swasti, in a reassuring tone, tells him that it's his house too, and he doesn't need anyone's permission anymore. Emboldened by her words, Rupesh not only ties his horse outside, but goes a step further and sells it. The atmosphere in the house shifts when Ramesh is brought back home by ambulance. The entire family, including Nitesh, Rupesh, Rayog, and Silas, gathers to receive him. The sight of their once strong patriarch, now frail and incapacitated, tugs at Rayog's heartstrings. He steps up as the de facto head of the family, announcing that there will be a daily prayer at 8 a.m. for their father's recovery, and everyone must attend. His firm tone leaves no room for objections, and the family agrees, recognizing his authority in Ramesh's absence. That night, as the house settles into an uneasy silence, Rupesh lies in bed, a satisfied smile on his face. He is pleased with the subtle shifts in power and the newfound freedom he has begun to claim. The next morning, as Rayog observes his father's condition, he grows increasingly concerned and suggests that surgery might be necessary. Dr. Rajev, knowing the potential costs, estimates it will be around 15 lakhs rupees. Without hesitation, Rayog instructs him to proceed, assuring him that money is not an issue. While the rest of the family harbors doubts about the surgery's success, they're soon proven wrong. The operation goes surprisingly well, and Rupesh starts to show remarkable signs of recovery, his strength slowly returning. But Rupesh is anything but pleased with these developments. He had quietly hoped for his father's demise to ease his path to control. His disappointment is evident, especially when Nitesh approaches their recovering father with a check, subtly asking for authorization to sign it himself to avoid future issues. However, Rupesh, showing renewed vigor, signs the check on his own, much to Nitesh's dismay. Trying a different tactic, Nitesh then brings up a flat he's interested in purchasing in the city, mentioning that he has already made an advance booking. He subtly asks Rupesh for financial support to complete the purchase. But Rupesh, sensing Nitesh's ulterior motives, firmly declines. Instead, he instructs Nitesh to address the minor household issue of fixing the noisy fan in his room, and suggests installing an AC instead. This leaves Nitesh frustrated, realizing that his father's sharpness hasn't dulled despite his recent illness. Rupesh, with a false smile and deceitful charm, attempted to win Rumesh's trust. "You can rely on me," he said, his voice dripping with insincerity. "I'll take care of everything." But Rupesh, wise to Rupesh's manipulative game, saw through the facade and shoved him away with a fierce glare. Rupesh's intentions were clear. He was feigning kindness only to secure his claim to Rumesh's inheritance, fully aware that he was waiting for Rumesh's demise. Fueled by anger and desperation, Rupesh stormed into a nearby pharmacy. There, he purchased the very medicines Rupesh had been prescribed. With a cold and calculated precision, Rupesh waited until the dead of night when the house was still, then crept into Rumesh's room. He quietly swapped out Rumesh's legitimate medications with the deadly substitutes he had just bought, ensuring the switch was seamless. His plan was sinister, to poison Rupesh slowly, ensuring that his death would seem like a tragic natural end. Unbeknownst to Rupesh, Swasti was silently watching from the shadows. Her eyes narrowed as she observed Rupesh's every move, her suspicions now confirmed. Yet, despite witnessing the treacherous act, Swasti remained hidden and chose not to intervene. She, too, harbored a dark desire for Rumesh's swift demise and saw Rupesh's actions as a means to an end. As days passed, Rupesh unknowingly ingested the tainted medicines, his health deteriorating quietly but surely. The weight of his impending death cast a dark shadow over the household, while Rupesh remained conspicuously absent, secluding himself in his room. The air was thick with grief as Rumesh's passing was mourned, but Rupesh's absence was notable. Swasti, burdened by her own guilt and the knowledge of what had transpired, kept her silence. Beneath the surface of mourning and pretense, a web of betrayal and dark intentions wove its sinister threads, binding Swasti and Rupesh in a shared, unspoken complicity. The day after Rumesh's death, the family gathers to discuss dividing the property. Dr. Rajev, who had spoken with Rupesh before his passing, outlines the late patriarch's wishes. Rayog is to inherit the real estate business. Nitesh will get the shop and surrounding property. Rupesh will receive the horse and a small parcel of land near the house, and Silas will get the money in the bank. The room falls silent as the weight of the distribution sinks in. Rayog seems content. Nitesh nods in agreement, but Rupesh clenches his fists, clearly dissatisfied with his share. Silas, too young to fully understand, listens quietly, while an uneasy tension lingers in the air, hinting that not everyone is willing to accept Rumesh's final decisions. Rayog criticizes the others for discussing property so soon after their father's death, questioning how people will perceive their lack of respect. This sparks a heated debate, with emotions running high. Rayog further escalates the tension by mentioning that someone suggested they should have conducted an autopsy on their father, which sends a wave of panic through Rupesh as he fears it could expose his crime. Trying to deflect suspicion and avoid any further scrutiny, Rupesh quickly suggests that they follow Dr. Rajev's plan to prevent any conflicts. Reluctantly, everyone agrees, but the unease in the room is palpable, as unspoken tensions simmer just beneath the surface. The next day, during Rumesh's 13th day rituals, the family is shocked to discover that Rayog has exhumed Rumesh's grave to send his body for an autopsy. Panic spreads as everyone tries to stop him, calling it madness and disrespect. Rupesh, terrified that his crime will be uncovered, lashes out at Rayog, accusing him of not loving their father and claiming that's why he's doing this. Despite the chaos and accusations, Rayog remains determined, ignoring their pleas, and leaves with a steely resolve to uncover the truth. Panicked, Rupesh desperately tries to erase any trace of his crime. He grinds down the remaining medicines he used to poison Ramesh and burns them near a pond, hoping to destroy the evidence. However, the fire unexpectedly flares up, quickly spreading beyond his control. Frantic, Rupesh attempts to extinguish the flames, but when he realizes it's futile, he abandons the scene and flees, consumed by fear of being caught. The next morning, Rayog, suspicious and determined, asks Swasti where Rupesh was on the day their father died. Swasti, uneasy, claims she doesn't know. Not satisfied, Rayog confronts Rupesh directly, mentioning that a classmate named Bisesh claimed to have seen Rupesh near the pond around the time of their father's death. Panic flickers in Rupesh's eyes, but he quickly denies the accusation, dismissing Bisesh's claims as mere rumors. However, Rayog, not easily swayed, insists they find Thoda together to clear things up. Uneasy but without options, Rupesh grabs his toy gun and reluctantly agrees to go along. As they confront Bisesh, tension escalates. Rupesh, desperate to silence him, grabs Thoda by the collar and accuses him of lying. Bisesh, however, stands his ground, insisting he saw Rupesh near the pond the day their father died. As Bisesh begins to reveal more, a panicked Rupesh pushes him away. The gears start turning in Rayog's mind. He remembers that Rupesh often smokes near the pond and realizes his brother was there when the fire broke out. Fueled by suspicion, Rayog seizes Rupesh by the neck, demanding the truth. Cornered, Rupesh pulls out the toy gun and shoots Rayog in the neck. Though just a toy, the metal pellets pierce Rayog's throat, making it difficult for him to breathe. In a frantic attempt to cover his tracks, Rupesh spots a bomb nearby, steps back, and detonates it, blowing Rayog to pieces. In his desperation to keep his secret hidden, Rupesh has now murdered his own brother, ensuring that the truth about his father's death will remain buried with Rayog. Rupesh later fabricates a story, telling everyone that the man they went to meet, Bises, was responsible for Rayog's death. As the family discusses the need for an investigation, Rupesh, feigning deep emotion, convinces them to let it go, saying they should honor Rayog's memory by avoiding further conflict. Meanwhile, Silas, who had been close to his grandfather, Ramesh, becomes increasingly withdrawn and isolated, struggling with his grief. Swasti, on the other hand, starts piecing things together, her suspicion of Rupesh growing stronger. She realizes that if Rupesh was capable of murdering their father to secure his inheritance, eliminating his brother to protect that secret wouldn't have been a stretch. Rupesh learns that the man he framed for Rayog's death has been caught. Panicking, he starts searching for the best criminal lawyer in town. Meanwhile, Nitesh and Swasti discuss the case when Nitesh gets a call from Rajev, who informs him that Rayog's autopsy found airgun bullets. Swasti believes Rupesh might be innocent. However, Silas realizes that only he and Rupesh knew about the airgun, raising new suspicions about Rupesh's involvement. The next morning, Rupesh hears on the news that bullets were found in Rayog's body, and his heart sinks as he understands the gravity of the situation. With a deep breath, he steps out of his room, only to be greeted by an unsettling silence that hangs over the house. He descends the stairs cautiously and finds everyone gathered in the living room, their eyes fixed on him with a mixture of suspicion and contempt. Silas had already told them about the airgun, and it's clear they believe Rupesh is guilty. Trying to defend himself, Rupesh protests, "How could I kill anyone? You're wrongly accusing me, and you'll all regret it later." But before he can say more, Swasti steps forward, her voice cold and steady. "Rupesh, stop this drama now," she says. A statement that makes it clear she has revealed to everyone that Rupesh also killed Ramesh. The tension in the room is palpable. Feeling cornered and desperate, Rupesh pulls Jason aside and, in a hushed voice, admits that he killed both Rayog and their father, revealing that Swasti knows far more about his crimes than she's let on. Rupesh, now fully revealing his true nature, threatens the family, warning them that if the police get involved and anyone dares to speak against him, he'll drag them down with him. He demands their silence, making it clear that they must support him or face dire consequences. Jason, seeing Rupesh for who he truly is, defiantly declares, "Even if you put a knife to my throat, I won't support you." Rupesh, unfazed, suddenly bursts into laughter and retreats to his room. With a sinister calm, he pulls out his mobile and starts searching for information on the weakest part of the skull. After gathering the information he needs, he takes out the air gun, carefully loads it, and begins typing a message in which it was written that this is not my suicide note. The society has ruined me and this society has killed me. Catch them. After sending this message to everyone, Rupesh shoots himself with an air gun. Everyone hears the housing of the gun and sees blood coming out of his room. But all they do is wait for the arrival of the police. Now, we see that Rupesh wasn't dead but paralyzed, with only his eyelids able to move. The police arrive to take his statement. If Rupesh had died, the case would have been easily closed, but he had survived. The police ask him to confess. If he did something, he should blink once. But Rupesh doesn't blink even once, and the movie ends there. So, friends, you saw that in the pursuit of land and property, loyalty vanishes, and even the closest people can become your worst enemies. This doesn't just happen in films, it's something you'll witness in real life too. As for the movie's ending, Rupesh had started to think of himself as James Bond. The more crimes he committed, the more he believed that killing was easy. But in reality, he was nothing, and the evidence always came to light. You can judge his intelligence by the fact that he tried to solve all his problems by searching on Google. His obsession with land and property drove him to kill his own father and brother. In the last scene, we see Rupesh shooting himself with air gun to commit suicide. But then we see that he is alive, though his body is paralyzed. I believe that even though he survived, everything depended on whether he blinked or not. But Rupesh still didn't give up. He refused to blink. We don't know what happens next. Maybe Rupesh recovers and ends up in jail, or perhaps he never recovers and spends the rest of his life in this paralyzed state. In the end, all the effort he put into killing for land and property amounted to nothing, leaving him in a situation worse than before. Perhaps that's why they say greed is a terrible thing. Thank you for watching our video. If you enjoyed the story and want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and leave a comment below to let us know your thoughts. Your support helps us create more engaging content and brings these stories to life. See you in the next video.